Welcome, everyone. This is part 2 of my conversation with Deitra, where we mainly discuss the African Heritage Power Plate. And if you didn't see the first part, go ahead and watch that first, and I'll link it down below. We talked about Deitra's background and her journey that led her to a plant-based diet, to become a cooking and nutrition instructor, and a health and wellness coach. She meets people where they're at and helps them build a more plant-based diet while maintaining cultural relevance. She shared many tips on flavoring food, talking with family members, and how to save money when grocery shopping, and so much more. Okay, so I'm just going to jump right into the video where we left off, and I hope you guys like it. Then, when I was an intern at PCRM,
Yes.
I think 2019, you
Mhm.
had this amazing idea to kind of combine those cooking programs to
Mhm.
make the African Heritage Power Plate.
Yes.
So do you want to share, why it was created, how you came up with this idea and the need for this? And
Mhm.
I'm going to pull up one more slide.
Okay. Yes.
Here we
Okay.
go.
So in 2000, like I said, in 2016 was when I applied to become a Food for Life instructor, but
Mm-hmm.
the course didn't start until May of 2017. And so a part of the application, was asking why did you want to become a Food for Life instructor. And at that time on my application, I wrote that I would love for there to be a plate that represented the African heritage.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to because with PCRM, or the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, they had a Native American power plate. I was like, ooh, this would be great because
Mm-hmm.
again, for me, I feel that it is important, whatever culture, it is important for there to be a cultural connection because it's
Yeah.
about celebrating your traditions. That's what that is about. And so anytime you tell a person, make a lifestyle change, but if they don't see representation of their culture or of their tradition, they feel like, okay, well, this is too hard and I'm having to give up things that I love. And so
Right.
that for me, I really wanted there to be some type of representation. So I put that on my application and I had asked about it,
Mm-hmm.
early on in 2017, but the timing is always a factor in things. I never gave up, then was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I never gave up because I said there still has to be representation of the African heritage about how you can eat healthy and maintain your tradition. And so it wasn't until 2019 that I had the pleasure of meeting you and we started working on it. So just a little backstory again about
Mm-hmm.
what is the African Heritage Power Plate. So it is the combination of the two organizations that I, have
Mm-hmm.
the great honor of being a part of. So on the left there is Old Ways, and Old Ways, they truly focus on, returning to the traditional ways of eating, because as we know, the
Mm-hmm.
standard American diet, or what we call the SAD diet, has led to a lot of, not just in the African American community or the African heritage community, but in many other cultures, because
Mm-hmm.
everyone has moved away from the traditional way of eating. So that's how Old Ways was presented. And so in 2011, they created
Mm-hmm.
the African Heritage Diet Pyramid. And again, as you see, the bottom part, the key parts there, it wasn't just about the
Mm-hmm.
food, but at the bottom, it's about family, connection, physical activity.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll see your greens, because a large part of our culture across the entire diaspora, and when I say the diaspora, is where prior to in enslavement, when our ancestors were, dispersed, if you will, to different areas, the greens was a part of the diaspora throughout. And so when the majority of the dispersing was in the Caribbean, in South America,
Mm-hmm.
North America, and then again, those who maintained or stayed in Africa. But
Mm-hmm.
then, again, you're going up the pyramid. And so that was the African Heritage Diet Pyramid. And then the other part is the Power Plate
Mm-hmm.
that was created in 1998, I believe, by the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And so again, that was created because the physicians, the entire staff or team which consisted of nurses, physicians, and dietitians, you know, really saw the science in how eating this way using the power plate, that there were many diseases or conditions that were reversed. Heart disease, that many times when people are diagnosed with that, they you know, is told that you can't reverse that. You're gonna, this is your way of life. But the evidence showed that you could. And so that, in a sense, was the baby. The African Heritage Power Plate is the baby of combining the two. So that is how that was created, and it was released February 1st, 2020.
Yeah, and let me pull up the actual plate because I want to show everybody the finished product.
Yes, and it was fun, really, you know, working on it. I know you and I were kind of going back and forth with, okay, so what we're going to put in there? What recipes we're going to put in there? You know, look, it really could have been a book of recipes. But yes, that is the lovely cover of the book. Again, using the power plate as your guide. So for every meal, use that as your guide. So an example for breakfast, how you can use that. So for breakfast, your whole grain could be grits. You being a Southern girl, because corn is a whole grain. And we want to use stone ground grits. We don't want things that are overly processed. So having those stone ground grits. And then you can have tofu, scrambled tofu. That's your beans, right? Because tofu is really soybeans that have been the curd out of that. So that's your beans. For your greens, now I'm going to tell you a little tip here. I know sometimes when people had an omelet, they would put like spinach and your peppers and things like that. So create a tofu omelet, if you will, scrambled omelet. And so you can do the same thing. So I would saute my spinach first, because I just, you know, want that sauteed a little bit first, you know, with some onions and garlic. And then you can add that to your tofu scramble. And then your fruit on the side, if you want to have a fruit smoothie, or you can just have a side of whatever your favorite fruit. That's breakfast. That's your plate. And you're covering all of the bases, and you're getting all the nutrients. You're getting the colors. As we mentioned before, eating the rainbow of colors. For lunch, you can do the same thing. You can say, you can have, let's see what comes to mind, a salad, you know, starting with your base of your greens. I like kale for my salad. And then I love putting quinoa in my salad. And okay, so I'm gonna tell you, this is one that I call like a holiday salad, because it makes me think of the holidays because of the colors and everything I put in it. So I have my kale, and then I have my quinoa, my whole grain. And then I have another vegetable, because your vegetables are not just the dark green leafy vegetables, but your root vegetables. Yep. So I put like some roasted sweet potatoes on there. And then I put, as a fruit, I put dried cranberries in there. So you get it? That's Thanksgiving, right? That's Thanksgiving. And then so what I do to put the beans in there, I use a tahini dressing. Tahini is just your sesame seeds that are, you know, made into like a creaminess. So those are my beans. That is the power plate for lunch.
Yeah, I love it.
And then we already showed you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know some people wanted to know why we needed this power plate when, you know, we have the PCR power plate and it's still the same fruits, grains, beans, and vegetables, but it's more about, you know, what we do with them and shining the light on, you know, our history and our heritage on using these foods as, you know, the core of our diet.
Right. And one thing, because I had someone to ask me that as well, is the African Heritage Power Plate only for those in the African heritage? And I you know, immediately said no. It's celebrating diversity, and it's fostering interconnectedness. So again, just like you mentioned, the power plate is the power plate, but it's an opportunity to peek into what the African heritage is about. So when I think about, if I just say, okay, I'm only going to eat food in my heritage, no, I like all food. And so, I mean, like a Taco Tuesday, that's embracing the Latin American heritage, Right? It doesn't say I'm Latin American, but I mean, I love food. So this is an opportunity for people to experience the African heritage, whether you're
Yes.
African heritage
Yep.
or not.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's definitely for everyone. I mean,
Indeed.
I'm the same way. I enjoy foods from everywhere. It's
Yeah.
like actually one of my favorite things to do is to
Yeah. And,
go around
and
and try different foods.
yeah, yeah. So as you mentioned that, I think
Yeah.
it's important for everyone to have a day, and let's say if it's Thursday, have it
Mm-hmm.
called Try It Thursday. Try
Mm-hmm.
something new because you will never know what other things taste like if you don't try it. You know, you can say you tried and you like it, or try it and not
Mm-hmm.
like it and say, okay, I won't do that again. But try it. Try something new, be it a new fruit, a different vegetable, a different grain, a different bean.
Mm-hmm.
Just try something different.
Yeah, and just to show, maybe not there's not just one way of plant-based eating,
Indeed.
that there is plant-based foods in almost all cultures. And we're
Indeed.
just here highlighting, the African heritage
That's it.
and for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So, um, yeah, so we have our fruits and beans, whole
Mm-hmm.
grains, and vegetables. And I want
Mm-hmm.
to look at this page for a second.
Yeah.
So we wrote here, under your healthy heritage, the
Mm-hmm.
ancestors of Black people, African
Mm-hmm.
Americans, brought many wonderful food traditions to parts of the Caribbean, like you said, South
Mm-hmm.
America, the Southern United States. So
Mm-hmm.
tell me more about what the traditional diet in Africa was. What were the ancestors of the African diaspora eating like prior to enslavement?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned earlier, it was primarily plant based because
Mm-hmm.
they ate from the land. Again, they did eat meat, not saying that they didn't, but it
Right.
was only for celebration or ceremony where they ate meat. So, when you
Mm-hmm.
think of, yam was really in Africa, we don't find yams much here. It's more of the sweet potato.
Mm-hmm.
The greens, like I mentioned, the beans, like black eyed peas, normally here in the American South, you would really want to have your black eyed peas or the hoppin' john on New Year's Day because it represented
Mm-hmm.
luck, but it's called cow peas in Africa. But those were the things that the ancestors ate. And so when I think about, and many of the research that things that I've read is that those who knew that they were going to be enslaved, they wanted to hold on to the legacy or the
Mm-hmm.
traditions. And so, like for instance, with the rice seeds or the bean seeds, many of the women um, planted those, hid those seeds in their hair by braiding it in their hair and in
Oh,
the children's hair, and so that they would have number one food because they didn't
yeah.
know what am I going to eat when I get there. This is foreign to us. We don't know what they going to have there. So that is what they had. And especially when they settled in the American South, that was more so in South Carolina. That's why the Gullah or Geechee community,
Mm-hmm.
they still maintain the West African way of eating because many of them settled there. And going back to the rice in the homeland or the motherland,
Mm-hmm.
it was the women who actually cultivated the rice farm. They were the rice farmers. And so, they were, brought over because of that agricultural knowledge that they had. And
Mm-hmm.
so, even today, the rice farms are really in that area in South Carolina
Mm-hmm.
for that. And when you think of when our enslaved ancestors came to the Americas, the way of eating, they had to adapt, as we all
Mm-hmm.
sometimes have to adapt. They had to adapt because what was given to them were scraps, the leftovers.
Right.
And so this is how it wasn't really until the 60s when the term soul food came about, because
Mm-hmm.
again, as a community, we wanted to say we have culture, we have tradition. And so that's how
Mm-hmm.
soul food came about. But again, that was based on the food that our ancestors had to adapt and create. And again, because it was all about seasoning for us, it's all about flavor. And so
Mm-hmm.
what they did, those scraps were like the chitterlings, or what in the South they
Mm-hmm.
call chitlins, which is the pig intestines, or any of the other parts of the scraps that were given them. they made that using a lot of salt, fat, sugar, but again, they were trying to make it flavorful, taking scraps to make a cuisine,
Yeah.
that's how
I
that came
mean, how
about.
resourceful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Putting the seeds in the hair,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're taking the scraps,
Yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
the leftovers from slave masters,
Yeah.
and really like making it into food with the
Yeah.
seasoning and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Making it palatable, because I mean, who really, when I think about, just again, the chitterlings or the chitlings is what they would
Mm-hmm.
call it here. Who would want to eat that? But
Yeah.
they flavored it up where people now, it's a delicacy for some people,
Mm-hmm.
to eat that. But again, it was being resourceful. It was
Mm-hmm.
being creative. And, just so many things from that. Many of the recipes that are like Southern recipes
Mm-hmm.
were from the ancestors. And the sad part of this is that, many of them worked in restaurants, but they didn't have written recipes. Not
Mm-hmm.
all of them, some of them did, but they had to give up their recipes to their, leaders or what have you in the restaurant in order to work there. And many of them then created cookbooks of the recipes of the ancestors, but were never acknowledged as the ones who originated or curated, if you will, the recipe. So it was a lot, going on there. And so that's why it's important for
Mm-hmm.
us to maintain our heritage and our traditions and really give acknowledgement
Mm-hmm.
to our ancestors for recipes and things of that nature, because they had to give it up in order to work, to
Right.
survive, and care for their families.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the good thing about this plate is we're not just talking about the history, but also what we have today and the
Mm-hmm.
soul food today, and that it doesn't have to be unhealthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you feel connected to the deep traditions back in
Mm-hmm.
Africa, you can
Mm-hmm.
do that, and you can be plant-based.
Yeah.
If you are connected to what we call soul food today,
Mm-hmm.
you can keep that and you can do that,
Yeah.
while still being vegan.
Yeah. And
And
I'll tell you, and I'm
yeah,
sorry,
no,
ooh,
go ahead, go
pardon
ahead.
me, an acronym that, and I forgot the college, I think it was Bowman College, used it. And so I use it now as
Mm-hmm.
when I'm talking about soul food, because it really does, get back to how the ancestors ate. So S
Mm-hmm.
stands for seasonal.
Mm-hmm.
O stands for unprocessed or whole foods. No, I'm sorry, O is for organic. And organic, then how they protected the food, if you will. They didn't use the chemical pesticides. So that's what I mean when we're talking about O for organic.
Mm-hmm.
U is unprocessed, or whole, and then local. Because again, they ate, what they grew or what the neighbor grew. They shared that.
Mm-hmm.
Was a community. So that is what I use for soul now. So I call myself a heart health coach because my focus is on heart health, and that
Mm-hmm.
I'm a vegan soul food culinarian. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, because the term soul food did come about there being a sense of culture for
Mm-hmm.
us. I do want to maintain that, but soul in a different light than what
Right.
we're used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I like that. And so next we talk a little bit about breaking the cycle. And so we're seeing now here in America so many gaps and these health disparities
Yeah.
where African Americans are having, I mean, not just higher prevalence, but like higher rates of the complications of
Mm-hmm.
mortality, and less
Mm-hmm.
successful treatments, right? And
Indeed.
these health disparities, they're so complex. And I know they're more than
Mm-hmm.
just the food that we eat, but talk to us a little
Mm-hmm.
bit about some barriers that African Americans, have today for eating
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah. And so, and I would definitely refer the viewers to go to the Slave Food Project by Dr. Columbus Batiste and Dr. Eric Walsh, because they
Mm-hmm.
really go in depth about that. Each Friday at 7 o'clock, they go live on YouTube, but
Mm-hmm.
and that's 7 Eastern.
Okay.
But in many of the communities of color, there are what is called food desert, meaning it's a mile or more for a person to have access to fresh fruit and vegetables, which is very sad to me. But on every corner, you have fast food. And so that is definitely a disparity. And many, I work closely with the Georgia Farmers Market Association here. And so what they're doing is, they have farmers markets in the community, and then they have like a mobile market that they're offering, as a solution to that. So if anyone has that, and if you know a local farmer, definitely you can go to the Farmers Market Coalition website, and it will list the farmers for you, and you can then get become a part of the Community Supported Agriculture, or CSA, and you can get a box. I mean, there are many places that send you box via not email, but mail. You can get a box of fruit and vegetables, a whole range of whatever the farmer has harvested. You can have that, depending on what their frequency is. Some of them send it once a month, some send it every other week. But that's a solution to the food desert. There are some other things that, which again saddens me, that, again, there's not grocery stores available for people. But there is an organization called Wholesome Wave. And so if anyone receives SNAP benefits, which was formerly food stamps, and it depends on where you are, but here in Georgia, they have 3 different programs. One is where a person can receive dollar for dollar for fruit and vegetables at the farmers market. So say if they spent $10 on fruits and vegetables, they will get an additional $10 for fruit and vegetables at the farmers market.
Okay. Wow. So double.
Double your money. And then the other is more of a program where you're working with your physician, and your physician writes you a food pharmacy prescription. And you take that to the farmers market, and or some, like a hospital here, they have that within their hospital system. And so the people that participate, they receive up to 30 pounds of food. It could be twice a month or once. I think it's twice a month. Twice a month they get up to 30 pounds, but they have to follow up with their physician in order to continue to receive the food.
Okay.
And then one of the other programs that they launched last year, 2020, when everything was going on, that is called Plant to Plate. And so the participants would receive 50% off of, the seeds to plant their food, and they receive a gardening kit.
Okay.
So those are some solutions to help with, overcoming, because, yes, we all have barriers in our life, but what can we do to overcome it? What solutions are available for us that we may not be aware of? So those are some things that help. And there are still some people who still, prefer to go to the grocery store. And, there are still limits with that, because if they still are a long distance from one, if you have to use public transportation, there's a limit, because in public transportation, you're limited on the number of bags you can bring on the bus, because it can't impede on someone else's seat. So whatever you can fit in your lap is what you can bring on the bus.
Right.
But
you're shopping for a big family.
Yeah. Thank goodness there is Uber and things like that are available, that if you wanted to use some type of other transportation to do that. And not to get off topic here, but there is Uber has called Uber Health, and they work with the physicians if a person needs to get to their doctor's appointment. Uber Health, the physician can send that over to Uber to say this person has an appointment, and then they will come pick them, and the doctor can track them coming. And I'm wondering if they would be open to adding to that, for them to be able to go to the food pharmacy, per se. I don't know if that's a part of it, but I know that Uber Health is another arm of Uber that has been added, because people were having challenges getting to the doctor.
Yeah,
but that is how they can do that.
That's very cool. Yeah, I like that, and I like the one where the physicians are prescribing the food. That's kind of cool instead of,
Yeah.
normally prescribing the medication. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. So then now we have a little section, ditch the dairy.
Yeah.
And we know, 80% of African Americans are lactose intolerant, causing diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, abdominal cramps, bloating. And, we're still promoting, I mean, not us, but the government still promoting dairy. Studies have shown, there's a link to dairy and risk of breast cancer, second leading cause of cancer death in Black women, and ovarian cancer and prostate cancer, second leading cause of death for Black men, and we're experiencing higher rates on that too. So, we're just, introducing these healthy foods in a culturally relevant way as a way to kind of break these cycles and, get back to our health.
Yes,
right?
yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
So
the recipe.
Yes, this is like the best part. It was like, okay, I don't care about the information. Let me just do it.
What are we gonna cook? Yes. So the Hoppin' John salad. I had the opportunity of doing a live demonstration on January 1st of this year, 2021, on Chef AJ's show on YouTube. And so again, being who I am and having that creative gene in me, okay, this is a recipe specifically from Old Ways, but of course I made it my own and switched it up a little bit. Well, that one that we're looking at here, that is specifically from Old Ways. But the one that I created, I use collard greens because, again, this Hoppin' John is usually New Year's Day, representing luck. And so usually that plate for New Year's Day, you would have Hoppin' John. And Hoppin' John basically is rice and beans. Or beans and rice. Rice and peas is usually rice and peas in the Caribbean, but it's beans and rice. So it was the black-eyed peas and rice. And then you will also have your collard greens, because your collard greens represented money. And you would have cornbread on the table because cornbread represented gold. And if you wanted to add a little health to it, you added tomatoes. So that was usually the plate for New Year's Day for Hoppin' John. So I wanted to incorporate all of that in when I made mine on the cooking demonstration. So again, I substituted collard greens and some other things in there. So you go over to that website and see that.
Yeah. And I'm glad you're mentioning that, because I know some people who like to get an exact recipe and they follow it, every single thing. But these are, I mean, even the same salad in different areas of the world, they'll have a different spin on it, and everybody makes their own thing differently. Just experiment. If there's, a spice in one of these recipes you don't like, just don't put it. Right. There's something that you think would taste good in there, put it in. It's more about just highlighting that there are these recipes and you can do what you want with them, make it fit for you.
Right. And like you said, a recipe is a guide. And so if the first time that you prepare it, maybe make it how it is. And then as you're sitting back and say, okay, now what can I do to make it my own? Hey, you are the chef, executive chef of your own kitchen. So maybe start that way, how it's written, and then tweak it to make it your own. Recipe is a guide, only a guide.
Yeah. We have sweet potato pumpkin seed casserole.
Yeah.
I mean, these look so good. And these are things that people are eating now, and they might not even realize like it is plant-based or it could be plant-based. Because these are maybe not the foods you think of when you hear, vegan diet. But there's so many things. And I know we had some other recipes too that we wanted to include. I think we had to cut it down to 8 so that the booklet didn't cost as much if people wanted to order the hard copy. But I mean, we had mac and cheese, gumbo, all these different things.
Plantain pancakes, pumpkin soup.
And a peanut stew.
Yeah.
So, I
collard
mean,
greens if we didn't say that. So yeah,
yeah.
it was quite a few recipes because I mean, we were in the brainstorming session. We were trying to think of because we wanted to represent the entire diaspora,
Yeah.
not only the American South. Recipes, but we wanted to represent Africa, we wanted to represent the Caribbean, and we wanted to represent South America. So if you don't mind going back up, I want to just share with people highlight, so like on the first page, the Hoppin' John, that was the American South, the sweet potato casserole. I think that is across the board. Probably it would be more the pecans on top of it. But I think that's in the Caribbean, and here jollof rice is Africa.
Nigeria, right?
Yeah. And then the yuca fries, that's South America. The African heritage spicy chickpeas, that's Africa. You got the
yeah, and it's almost impossible to capture, I mean, the African diaspora is so large.
Yes.
And there's so many different cultures in there.
It is. Yeah.
Obviously we couldn't include all of them. But
no, I wish because like I said, it would be a cookbook then, not just a booklet.
But do your research because there's so many other fun recipes out there.
It is. It is. Yeah.
Yep.
And then the jerk lentils, the Caribbean, the mango and papaya afterthought, the Caribbean, and then the cornbread, the American South.
Yep. Yes.
And there you have it. The African Heritage Power Plate.
Yes. Amazing. And so we can download this for free, a PDF version on PCRM's website, Old Ways website, and Full
mine.
Circle.
Yes.
And I meant to ask you, this is off topic, but I wanted to ask you why the full circle? What is the meaning of?
So full circle to me is going back. So like I mentioned, with 9 years old in 1998, were full circle moments. It's like going back to something, from the original, or an experience that you experienced again. And so for me, I wanted full circle. I wanted us, those who receive services from me, going back to the original way that we were to be in health, right? And going back to how, as we talked about, my foundation or my instructor's manual that I like to follow in eating plants, and, enjoying nature, getting outside, all of those things, living at peace, leading with love, all of those things. I wanted it to be, that's what my services was about, going back to the original.
Yeah, beautiful. I like that. Yeah. All right. So how do we stay connected to you? Sign up for your mailing list? How do we see the events?
Yes. So my website is Full Circle Health Coaching LLC. You have to put the LLC on there in order to find me. And that is the name for everything on Facebook and YouTube. I did want to share one thing, Jennifer, before we go on, because usually, and right now, the hard copy is not available just yet because of COVID-19. PCRM nor Old Ways, they're not able to do the mass production because they're still closed. The offices are still closed. And so everyone is working remotely. But when it is able to back up, you can get the hard copy on pcrm.org website, or you can go to Old Ways, P as in Paul, T as in Tom.com to order the hard copy. But as Jennifer mentioned, the electronic copy. So I wanted to share because when I am speaking to people again about the cultural relevance and how the history and all of that, I like to partner it as a kit, as an African heritage kit. So the first one is by Tracy McWhirter, the African American Vegan Starter Guide. And because on page, I think it's page 6 of her booklet, she talks about what to eat, and she talks about using the power plate in a sense as a guide. And so this would be a good, pair to start with. And in the back of the book, Tracy talks about the historical highlights.
That was those 2 pages, my favorite part of the book. Really.
Yes.
Some of those things I didn't know about when I first saw that. This is amazing.
Yeah.
know?
And then to know that, we just recently, Cicely Tyson just passed away, but she was 96 and she was vegan.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so Dick Gregory, everyone knew him as civil rights, but also as a comedian, but he was vegan. Yeah. So many others in here. So showing the historical part of it, connecting it, because I want people to really understand how food, the thread that unites us. Yes, we were dispersed. Yes, we were. And, many times we're seen as separate, but we are one. We are one. And it's the food that unites us. And so I just wanted to share that when you get that, use them both, because there's great information in here that I may not have gone over the science of it. You have some athletes in here who are vegan, just a great tool for you if your desire, if it's just to learn. If you're at a point in your life, when it comes to coaching, you have to know what stage of readiness a person is in. But if you're at a point just wanting to get information, is great for you. If you're ready to step your toe in just a little bit, both are great information for you. And if you're ready to make it a lifestyle, great information for you. So those are great tools to get started on the journey.
Yeah, definitely. I wish I had downloaded to share the screen, but you can also get that free.
Yes. On Tracy's website, if you go to buyanygreen.necessary.com and you go to books, you download it for free, and you can, I'm not sure if they're doing distribution or not, but even if you were to order it, you could still order it for free. The Power Plate booklet is like 89 cents once they get back to shipping, 89 cents for it. But that's it. I think that's it. I know I've said a whole lot.
I'm glad you mentioned that. And because I was just going to ask you what other resources for further learning you recommend. I know you said the Slave Food Project.
Afro Vegan Society, which they're Veguary now, which is a great opportunity again to celebrate our heritage and reclaim our health through that. So AfroVeganSociety.com. I think they're .com. It might be that.
I'll put the link.
Okay. That's a great one. Tracy's website again, and Tracy actually has the 10,000 Black vegan women project. I'm a part of that, and so that's a great one. Let's see,
different documentaries.
And one that
vegan.
Yes. And that one I think came out in 2019. February 2019, and the director and producer is Jasmine Leyba. She is awesome and phenomenal, and again, it traces back to our heritage. So that's a great documentary. Oh goodness!
I know you had a bunch on your website too.
So if
maybe I'll link the
website.
Page to your website with those resources.
Yeah,
because I remember there was another book. Yeah, there's also a YouTube video that you had posted on there.
Yeah, so there is one. It's called the post-traumatic slave diet. You've heard of PSD before, so that's what that stands for, post-traumatic slave diet. So that's one on YouTube. So when you go to my website, you go to fullcirclehealthcoaching.llc.com. You'll see on the landing page it'll say "Start Now." Click there, because that's like you're ringing the doorbell to enter into Full Circle. So once you get back there, if you go to the resources tab, hover over that, and you'll see the drop down, because I have books, cookbooks, documentaries, and then for local restaurants here in Georgia, in the Atlanta area. So all of that is there. So quite a few documentaries. So again, if you go there, you'll see all of the resources that are available there for you.
Yeah. Okay. And are you on social media?
Facebook.
Okay, just Facebook.
And it's Full Circle Health Coaching LLC.
Awesome. Okay. So for everyone watching, I will put all of that and everything we talked about the whole conversation in the description box below. Deitra, thank you so much for coming on my show today. I mean, what a great conversation. And you shared so much with us. inspired so many people. I think this is amazing.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
And thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this interview, and thanks for watching Vegan with Jen.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.